reconvene the Transportation Policy Committee. I'm David Vogel, Oldham County Judge Executive. Happy to have all of you here today. First thing we'd like to do is ask Andy to call the roll.
Thanks, sir. So I will call the roll. We've got for those out there on Zoom, we've got quite a few people in the room, so we'll call roll. If you're in the room, stay here, and if you're on cyberspace, stay here as well. Who do we have from Bullitt County today? How about Charlestown? City of J-Town? Here. Mayor Dearfoot is here. Thank you, Mayor. Jeffersonville? New Albany? Shively?
Matt Minier, Jeffersontown.
Hey, Matt. Bernie Bowling's here from St. Matthews. Clark County. Floyd County. How about NDOT? Oh, at least one.
Tony McClellan.
Tony?
Carly Metcalf.
Carly? Jefferson League of Cities. Mayor Chapman. Who do we have from KYTC? I think we have several.
Isidro Delgado.
Isidro? I see Matt. I see Tracy. Tom. Are their names? Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Louisville Metro. Dirk Goins in the room.
Mike King.
Hi, Mike. We don't have anybody from the airport, I don't believe. Oldham County.
Judge Vogel.
Clarksville. I'll say here for Kevin Beatty, sitting right next to me. Clark. Oh, Aida. Unmute. See you, Aida.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you. I'm having some audio breakings.
We got you. Thanks for joining us, Aida.
Thank you.
Shall we try to go around the room? We've got some special guests here today, including some of our advisory members. We've got a delegation from Federal Highways Kentucky. So I guess let's try to go around the room, speak loudly and clearly. We've got these pucks, so that's how they can hear us out in cyberspace. Andy Rush, Kipton.
Greg Burris, Kipton.
All right, I'm David Vogel, County Judge, Oldham County.
Bernie Bowling, Councilman, City of St. Matthews.
Arizona, Kipton. Jeremy Shaw, Kipton.
Elizabeth Sparks with Kytc.
Williams with Kipton.
Hale with Kipton.
Bernadette Dupont with Federal Highways, Kentucky.
Valentine, Federal Highways, Kentucky.
Nora Scott, Federal.
John Callahan with AECom.
Bode Boris, Federal Highway.
Bill Derrick, Mayor, City of Jeffersontown.
Dirk Goins, Louisville Metro.
Aaron Haley, Kipton.
Kevin Beatty, County Clarksville.
Thank you all for joining us. It's real good to see everybody in person. It's been a while since we've had this many people in the room. It's good to see you.
Right, we're coming back a little bit from coronavirus and COVID, and it is good to have more people here. Also good to have the people that we have online with us today. The next item on our agenda today is going to be the approval of our January meeting minutes, and
Motion to approve.
Mayor Durf, all right, second.
Second.
Mr. Beatty, all right, all in favor? Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
One opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Now, Greg Burris is going to report to us on the public comment period.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. We did not receive any public comments prior to the meeting. Don't see anyone in the room with the public, and we did not receive any on chat.
Okay. Pretty succinct report there. Okay. All right, we don't need any action there. Correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, Greg, you want to talk about the public involvement report?
Correct. I'll go into the Transportation Outreach Report for this month. Pretty action-packed. We had a lot of events. We had a lot of comments. So I'll get right into it. Social media-wise, we saw a good increase over 4,000 impressions on Facebook, and also on Twitter. We saw almost 4,800 impressions, which was great news. That was mostly anchored thanks to shares on social media. That's the biggest thing that I kind of talk about, is that when we post things in agencies like Kytc District 5, or they were kind enough to share a couple of our posts this month, and that really pushed things out. And in January they shared that stuff, and so that really pushes the engagement out. That gets us out to audiences that we may not see, and so because of that, we saw an increase this month of over 1,000 people seeing our post. That also helps as we go over to the website side of things. If you look at things, our transportation main page also saw an increase, as well as our tip page and our MTP, up from also in December. Our public comment app saw 6 new comments. I'll go over those here just shortly. As I mentioned, we had 2 public comment opportunities. Our public participation plan wrapped up on January 28th. That began on December the 14th. We used pretty usual standard strategies. We did an email campaign, almost over 2,000 people sent to that. We had 850 people open it, 78 people clicked on the link. Social media campaign saw over 5,000 impressions and 167 engagements. We held a virtual public meeting on the January 25th. We were also featured on WDRB and WDRB.com. We've sent information flyers out to our newspapers, our MPO libraries, and business association and chamber newsletters. I have a little bit more on our participation plan here immediately following this report. Also, we had the proposed Amendment 6 to the MTP and the TIP. Similarly, we sent out an email campaign. Our social media campaign saw over 3,500 impressions, 108 engagements. We held a virtual public meeting on February 1st, and we had similar things. We sent informational flyers out to newspapers, MPO libraries, and business association and chamber newsletters. Those flyers hold QR codes so that people are able to actually use their phone and takes them right to the website where they're able to leave comments. Public outreach events. We hosted a listening session at the Thrive Center. They mostly focus on aging and elderly, so that was a great group to get in front of. We heard concerns for the TARC driver shortage and long wait for TARC 3. TARC actually also joined us with that and partnered with us for that listening session. They were also asked about projects on the horizon for walkability in Metro for people with disabilities. And concerns were raised about sidewalks needing repair in downtown Louisville, and suggestions were made for walkability with the construction going on in Louisville. Safety concerns were also raised at the exit of Brook and Jefferson for traffic and pedestrians. And we did hear some positive feedback on the new Lexington road redesign. As I mentioned, we were featured at WDRB and WDRB.com. So that got us a lot of general comments flowing in through our email box. Just kind of wanted to go over a few of those comments so that you all are aware of them. Our first comment received was about reinstalling a mass transit system. This person says Louisville used to have an elevated rail line and many of the tracks and stations still exist. They believe it would boost economic growth and connectivity. Our second comment opposes more bike lanes. They do think that they're not used enough and are dangerous due to drivers coming too close and often littered with branches and garbage. They are also opposed to road redesigns like on Lexington Road. They said they have seen added congestion in the area. Feels like it makes Lexington Road more dangerous for crossing for pedestrians. Our third comment also opposes the addition of more bike lanes and thinks more priority should be given to pedestrians through added sidewalks to help increase connectivity. Our fourth comment was requesting the barrels to be removed on the Butyl Bypass overpass, saying there are no signs of work being done. Fifth comment is suggesting that they remove the tolls on Downtown and East End Bridge. They think that is hurting the local economy. And our final general public comment is suggesting a text notification system be created specifically for the Waterson Expressway due to ongoing construction projects and closures. They are also in favor of red light cameras. They discussed a personal experience of being injured in a wreck where a person ran a red light. As I mentioned, we had 6 comments added to our public comment app. One was for the just congestion concerns on I-64. The second one was to restore the connection at South Preston Street and Burnett. Third comment suggested a four-way stop at East Ormsby and South Clay Street. Fourth comment asked for protected bike lanes from Bargetown Road down to Tyler Park. They think it would increase connectivity. A fifth comment would like to see more stoplights added near Taylorsville Road and Gladstone Avenue to help curb speeding and honking of vehicles. And our final map comment suggested better signage for a bike lane that is two ways for bikes, but one way for vehicles at East Kentucky and Swan Street. Want to mention real briefly here, I'm sharing, and that I have been putting these now on these reports on our website under our public participation page so that the committee members and also our public has an opportunity to view those things. They come up. Second here. Share the screen and show you where I'm putting this, because obviously the comments I went through and kind of briefly suggested them, but if you all wanted to go through and look at them a little bit more, definitely would encourage that. But if you go under our committees and council and go to our meeting information, you can find these comments right here in the meeting packets. You can see there's January's public involvement report and November's. So following this meeting, I'll put today's up there. And for anybody that wants to review these comments a little bit more in depth. But I will take any questions if there are any, but that concludes my report for this month.
I see one question here. Go ahead, ma'am.
Rick, do you put the QR codes on all the publications or just ones from the library?
For all the publication flyers, so the libraries and for anything sent to like the council, anything that's informational wise we send out.
Do you respond to those comments that you get?
Yes, if we send them to the TPC, so they'll receive these comments that we receive, like what we're going to talk about with Proposed Amendment 6. If TPC has any comment back, then we send those back to them.
Any other questions for Greg on this report? All right, seeing none, we'll close that section, go on to the next item on the agenda. And that's Greg again here talking about our public participation plan.
Correct. As I mentioned last thing, we wrapped up our public participation plan on January 28th. Pull that up real quick. All right. We did not receive any relevant comments. We did run that public comment opportunity from December 14th to the 28th of January. Like I said, we did receive a lot of comments, but nothing relevant to the plan itself. The plan, in case you don't remember, we did make a few changes just to reflect hybrid style meetings that we do and how we participate with the public with social media. How we consider those comments, and we will now be considering those as public comments if they're relevant. I am asking basically just for TPC to approve the new draft participation plan and put that into order.
All right, we need action on this?
Yes, we do, yes.
All right, is there a motion we accept this plan?
Motion to approve.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion regarding the plan? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone? Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to the amendment number 6 on the 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the fiscal year 2020-2025 Transportation Improvement Plan. And Nick Vale, come ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I think Greg's pulling up a presentation for you all. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Nick Vale. I kind of handle a lot of the work with the Transportation Improvement Program and/or TIP, as well as any of the amendments that may also impact the MTP. This is our 6th amendment to our current 2040 MTP and 2020 to 2025 TIP. This is an exempt-only amendment, meaning all the projects that are included in this are not subject to kind of the air quality conformity requirements. So as a result, there was no air quality conformity for this amendment. And you can see that it is not listed in the schedule. Likewise, whenever we do an exempt amendment, there is no requirement to request a conformity determination from Federal Highways, EPA, and FTA partners on that. So once action is taken here, we can immediately send this to NDOT and Kytc to include these projects in their statewide TIPs. So this process started back in January. We received project applications over the prior 2 months or so. As you can see, there's 4 projects in there. We spent time reviewing those for about a week, and then we began our public comment period back on the 24th, which wrapped up on the 7th of February, as Greg mentioned. Those comments were sent to the TPC for consideration, and on February 9th, we did receive a recommendation from the TTCC, the Technical Coordinating Committee. So what projects are included in this amendment? There were 4. One is the J-Town Waterston Trail Bicycle and Pedestrian Trail Phase 2. We're just simply updating the open to public date out a couple years on that one. I did want to mention in the packet that went out to you all, the county this project is listed in is Clark. It should say Jefferson. I think we all know that and should have caught that myself.
Welcome.
Yeah, you're in. You got J-Town and Jeff in the same county now.
So if I'm in Indiana, I have to do this year, right? I can't spend money right away, right?
Right, that carry over. And then we had 2 new TARP projects, buying buses with their 5307 and 5339 funds. Those are formula funds that they get from Federal Transit Administration. And they exceeded our group project thresholds, which was $1 million for transit projects. So we add them as part of our amendment process to give the public an opportunity to comment. And then we updated the open to public date for TARC's comprehensive operations analysis and strategic plan, which is wrapping up. So those are the projects that were included in the packet. The public comments were also included in the packet that was sent out. I can take any comments or questions at this time.
Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, your motion to approve.
We do have two requests here. The first is to approve Amendment 6 to the CK 2040 MTP.
Right. Motion. So second. Moved and seconded. All right, discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are we picking up our Zoom participants as well here?
We were last time. They were quiet that time. Get them on the next one.
All right, well, yeah, wave your hand or say something if you're on Zoom. All right, now amendment number 6 to the fiscal year 2025 TIP. Motion to approve. Buddy? All right, Ernie, thank you. Second? Second, all right. Got the same people making all the motions here. Does anybody on the Zoom want to say anything? All right, hearing nothing, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
We had some hands. Yeah.
All right.
We had some hands on here.
We had some hands
Yes, we
this
did.
time,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right. Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, Nick, thank you. Now, item number 7 on the agenda is the MPO dedicated funding programs, and we're going to call on Nick again for that.
That's right. This is my quarterly kind of update on the MPO dedicated program. So these are programs and funds for which the TPC has authority to award within this region. These are outside the purview of Kytc and NDOT and TARC. So these are funds that are selected and awarded by this body here. And I'd like to give an update. I think Greg's pulling up a presentation on kind of where things stand in terms of our current fiscal year 2022 funding. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about cost increases and new projects in Indiana. There's been a lot of moving pieces in Indiana this year. So again, The MPO dedicated programs, we follow rules that were set by this body and are outlined in the project management guidebook. They tell us, how funds can be awarded, when cost increases can be awarded, when projects are delayed, what kind of happens in those circumstances. So there's a whole list of, I'd say 8 or 10 pages of kind of guidance on how we handle this, and I'm kind of in charge of making sure that I coordinate with all the project sponsors. In Indiana, we receive funding from 4 federal transportation programs. They're listed at the top there in blue: Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, CMAQ program, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, STBG, often referred to as SLO in Kentucky specifically, and then the Transportation Alternatives Program, TA, which is typically bike and pedestrian improvement. So Indiana is wrapping up their fiscal year. They operate from July to June, and essentially projects, for the most part, have to be obligated by early May, so that they are not lost to the state of Indiana. So it's a use it or lose it situation. We receive approximately $4 to $5 million annually through these 4 programs combined. We must make sure we spend all of that, or it will go back to the state. In the CMAQ program, we have obligated all of those funds at this time. That was for, I believe, the Every Commute Counts program.
It's for CARE. HSCD.
The HSIP program, Clark County is getting close to obligating their right-of-way funds for County Road 403 and Stacy Road roundabout. In the Surface Transportation Block Grant program, there are 3 or 4, I think there's 2 projects here we're waiting on to be obligated. One is the railroad improvements, I think, at the 9th Street and Montgomery Avenue intersection. And then also East Main Street. New Albany has about $3 million tied up in the construction phase of the East Main Street reconstruction project. So we've heard from those sponsors that they're on track, and so in the next few months we should hear positive information about those projects being obligated in time. Transportation Alternatives Program, that is the railroad improvements project I mentioned. So they are on track as well. There's some railroad improvements that need to be made before they can do construction on the multimodal bike and pedestrian lane next year. So that's kind of where things stand in Indiana. It does look like a lot of funds are obligated, and some maybe hesitancy there, but we've received word from everybody that they're on track, and we should be. I see you all. Any questions or comments about Indiana 2022 obligation status?
Questions, anybody? Okay.
We'll move on to Kentucky. In Kentucky, we only receive allocations for the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program and the Transportation Alternatives Program. We have a significant carryover balance that we're working to spend down. $95 million was programmed at the beginning of fiscal year 2022 for projects, and there has been approximately $3.5 million obligated so far, including the Jeffersontown Waterston Trail Phase 1, which was obligated for construction. I think will be going out for letting not too shortly, I imagine. Waterston Trail Phase 2 was obligated for the right-of-way phase, getting them closer to construction there. Every Commute Counts program, that's our regional van pool program that KIPTA operates. Those funds were obligated, as well as design funds for, I think, final design for the McNeely Lake segment of the Louisville Loop. And then finally, design funds were obligated for U of L's 2nd Street, 3rd Street, Museum Drive improvements, a project they're working on closely with Kytc. So at this time, our obligations are 3.5 for the STBG program and about 150 in the TA program. In Kentucky, the fiscal year operates from October to September, so we're we're just 4 months into the fiscal year. And typically, the bulk of the obligations come at the end of the fiscal year. Any questions on Kentucky's obligation status? Okay. Moving on, there's a lot of information in the packet this go around about both cost increases in Indiana and these new projects that I'll mention in a minute. We had enough available funding in our programs to fully fund all of the cost increase requests that came in. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see there are 6 projects listed here. Well, 5 projects. One of them has 2 phases that needed additional funding. I will say the Blackston Mill Road Phase 2 and the Charlestown Road project, which is a sidewalk project, multi-use trail, I believe. Those 2 projects we were unable to fully actually fund their construction phases, and now that with the new bill, we believe that we'll be able to fully fund both of those construction phases. So there was no action needed by any of our working groups on this item because we had enough funding to cover them all. Any questions on the cost increases? And then finally, what Andy and I have spent a lot of our time on in the last probably 4 or 5 months, as well as our project sponsors in Indiana. So as I mentioned, it's a use it or lose it situation with our funds. Back in, I want to say October, maybe late September, Floyd County alerted us that their Bridge 51 project, which is replacing the bridge over Silver Creek, which divides Clark and Floyd County, as well as New Albany and Clarksville, that bridge needed a lot more environmental work to be done before clearance was provided to start the right-of-way process. It's a delay of almost 2 years, and because of that delay, it's pushed right-of-way back to 2024 and construction back to 2026, and that's had a ripple effect. And what it meant is we had about $934,000 that became unprogrammed, that we had to find a home for very quickly. It represents about 20% of what we receive annually. So we had to find a home for these funds, and because of time constraints and the reduced time we have in Indiana to obligate projects, what we realized was that we had really 2 choices, and that was identify projects that could be flexed to FTA. So in a sense, basically, we will request for the second 2 TARP projects, we will request that NDOT ask Federal Highways to ask Federal Transit to flex those funds to an FTA grant. As soon as that flex occurs, those funds will be considered obligated in NDOT's eyes, and then TARP can go work with FTA to get a grant approved. The top 2 projects are planning studies, and we learned that through this process that we can flex those funds to KIPTA's planning funds. So we get planning funds every year to conduct our normal staff activities and whatnot, as well as planning studies for individual sponsors. And we can basically take these funds from our dedicated program and flex them over to our PL program. So we are proposing to do that as part of this process. The 3 projects you see on the right that were not recommended by the TTCC working group are not bad projects or anything of that nature. NDOT simply told us there was not enough time to approve any new construction phases, whether it's design, right-of-way, or utilities. So they really we didn't have a chance to get these in time-wise. So our options were limited. The working group decided to fully fund the Floyd County Transit and Multimodal Planning Study, New Albany State Street Congestion Mitigation Planning Study, the TARC bus stop ADA improvements in New Albany, and then the remainder that was left was given to TARC to buy additional vehicles, for transit vans, for mobility on-demand service. So we think this is an approach that will work and hopefully secure all these funds and they stay in our region. There's still work to be done, but that's a lot of information. I normally don't bring something as complicated as this to you, but does anyone have any questions or comments?
If those TARP vans are bought with Indiana money, can they be used?
They can. There's not I don't believe at all that FTA requires TARP to kind of assign this vehicle only stays on this side of the river or in this jurisdiction. So there is flexibility for them to do that. They have said, they hope to make sure that those end up in Indiana more often than not, but once they go into the fleet, oftentimes they can do what they in terms of service.
We'll put them in J-Town in Indiana.
It was a refrain that we heard during this conversation, and that is something that...
While they're passing through, can we have them work for us?
Exactly. Hopefully they'll be able to work for everybody, but at the end of the day, we wanted to make sure we weren't sending money back to the state. So these are the 4 projects. The cost increases and these projects are also included in the administrative modifications, so you'll see, I'll talk about those later very briefly. But does anyone have any other comments or questions before I ask for action on these?
Studies have to be a separate motion approved for UPWP before we go ahead and approve the amendment.
We're going to do the approval, sorry, I'm going to request action to approve the new projects and the cost increases at this time.
Second. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, including those on Zoom, please say aye or wave your hand.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then there's one more action, and that is to approve the amendment to the UPWP to add the 2 planning studies.
So moved. Second. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye or wave your hand.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Nick. We'll move on now with our bipartisan infrastructure law update, and that comes from Andy.
Well, it won't come from me, it'll come from Ms. Bode Boris.
Okay.
So we're privileged to have a contingent of Federal Highways Kentucky Division staff here in the room today, for those that are out in cyberspace out there on the Zoom. And so for those that don't know Bode, we got some words to share with you. She's our Deputy Division Administrator there in Frankfort at Kentucky Division, where she helps lead the administration of the Federal Aid Highway Program and assists in carrying out USDOT's national transportation and safety goals. Several of her diverse staff of engineers, planners, realty, financial specialists, and support personnel are in the room, and there's several others there in Frankfort. And some of you guys probably know Bode from when she was at KIPTA. You know, we were trying to figure out when you were here last speaking.
Probably over 10 years ago.
Probably, yeah. I remember. I can remember it. And so she began at FHWA in 2013, but she had a prior life at the Transportation Cabinet, right? And so it's probably both of those times. So she's been at Federal Highway since 2013 as a division structural engineer. She began her career there as that. And then, in 2017, she had enough of Frankfurt, at least for a little while. She went to the Hawaii Division. So in the Hawaii Division as a Pacific U.S. Territorial Rep and ITS Specialist. So listen to this. While living in Paradise, she worked with HDOT, Hawaii DOT, American Samoa, Commonwealth of Northern Marianas, and Guam, giving guidance and delivering their respective federal aid programs. I think they probably had to do remote meetings there, too.
Yeah,
It's hard to do in-person meetings.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, she retired from KYTC. And she holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from University of Kentucky, and also another bachelor's degree in applied science from Kentucky State. And then in her free time, she's got some lovely hobbies, including spending time with her family and friends, traveling around the world. She gets to travel for work and hopefully for personal. Learning new cultures, trying new foods, watching sports, playing golf, and landscaping. And last but not least, she picked up a new hobby last year of creating stained glass pieces. So welcome, Bode Boris.
Thank you. You didn't have to read all that.
I thought you should.
So I appreciate you guys having me here today. I know, my topic was FHWA update, and your all's topic is bipartisan infrastructure law and update. So I think it's going to be a hybrid of a little bit both. So for me, I'm going to give you an update for our office because we had so many different changes that are going on. We did hire Nick Lombardi, who is our structures engineer now. I think he's been with us now since April, so he's knocking on a year with us. And then, of course, Nora, she's assigned to you guys from our office, and she's been with us, 6 months now? Or a little bit over, right? Oh, 8 now? Oh, my gosh. So, we do have also some changes going on in the office. We had somebody leave our office last week, and so we have, duties that are temporarily assigned across the board. So, the just main thing I wanted to point out, Steve Jacobs, who is our financial manager, he's picked up the civil rights program. So if there's anything that has, you guys, have to work with, with our guys, it'll be Steve Jacobs for that. We are also looking for a program coordinator, and we have not yet advertised for that. I do want to mention we do have a web page, our home web page at FHWA. I'll post that at the end of this presentation, but it's expertise directory. So you can go there and you can click, bike pads, and it'll show who is actually on, we have it like your point of contact and somebody that's secondary. So I just want to mention that to you guys. And then I also want to mention something pretty neat that we're really proud of. Our division office has been working with Kytc and other staff with a public roads article, and I don't know if you're familiar with that magazine, but we have an article that's slated to go out this, April? March. Oh, that's coming up. So that article is the town branch, no, not the town branch, the, Newtown Pike Extension, which started a long time ago, back in 2000, and has moved on and progressed, but it is a very interesting article, so if you guys can catch that, that would be great. So that's what we have there in the division office, but now we'll move on to what you guys were advertising in your agenda. So with this, I'm just going to go over some general points, and then I'm also going to go over some recent notices that went out, and then we can save the questions through the end. I designed this presentation so we do have some time at the end, so you guys can answer, or you guys can ask questions, and I guess between all of us here, the cadre from Federal Highways, which is rarely seen that you see, not 2, but 4 Federal Highway people in one room, it's pretty odd. So it's nice to see that, we have support out here and that you guys can ask questions, and, I hope to be able to answer them. So I don't know if you guys have seen this already, but, we're getting a lot of money. This is the biggest law that has passed in a while, and it's going to last us for 5 years. I guess our predecessor was the FAST Act, so this is, has over $350 billion, toward federal highways, and basically to you guys in the state. So, it splits out, because the thing about it is there's $303 billion that's going through the contract authority, and that is basically from the Highway Trust Fund. And then the advanced appropriations, which highlighted there, which is the $47.3 billion, is from the advanced appropriations, which is basically from the general fund. So just wanted to point that out. I also want to point out too that $69.9 billion is going to transit. So everybody's got lots of opportunities here. I want to just mention too that there were like a dozen new highway programs that are coming from this, and some are formula based, and I don't know if the difference between the formula is that it's a set amount based on the state, and then the discretionary funds, which is basically the up for grabs. Everybody's hearing this. These are grants for applications for folks that are willing to create the application and then be able to basically be selected for those types of projects. So with that, I can't go over every little detail of what's going on here. First of all, because we don't have guidance. Secondly, what I wanted to do is just share with you, the goals for this bill, and I say bill because it's strange, because it's like, we're talking, it's a law. But anyway, our focus is for safety, bridges, climate change, resilience, and then project delivery. And then I think most of the part in the project delivery, it pertains to local. So that's a good thing. This gives opportunities. You can see here, you can see all the different funding availability for different programs or discretionary funds that are going to be out there. But you can see all the little check marks of who gets to be able to get their hands on this. So there's quite a few items, if you put a lot of legwork, because it is going to take some legwork to prepare and get these out there on your all's end, and it's also going to be the same thing on our end and also with the state as well. So just letting you all know that. It just brings non-traditional entities the availability or the accessibility to these fundings. All right. let me go back here. I do want to mention here, you know, with the formula funding and discretionary funding, you know, the difference, you know, we get lost in the minutia of the words. So the apportionment is for formula. If you hear apportionment, you should be thinking formula. That means that's just basically the amount of money that's directly going to Kentucky. You know, and then when you hear allocation, you know, that's when you should be synonymous with the discretionary funds, which are those grants that are going to be out there for, you know, applications. Okay, so just putting that out there. The continuing resolution that just came out, as far as it was passed by Congress, and I think it was signed by the President last Friday, that just kind of basically allows us to be able to use these funds, you know, and until they get to the point where, you know, they pass that into a law where we can, you know, have contract authority. Because when you have the amount of money which was in this bill, you know, it's just telling you this is how much money is going to be distributed out and where we're going to use it and where it's going to come from. Then you have to have this other piece of legislation, the law, to tell you we can start doing it this way and this is how it's done. I mean, so there's two pieces to it. So when people think, oh, we got this money, it's not ready yet. And then on top of that, the other thing is that, you know, since it's kind of delegated to federal highways to kind of get the ball rolling, you know, we have to come up with guidance so you guys know what to do. So a lot of these things have not happened yet. I mean, because we're still waiting for these other things to happen. So it's going to take a while, you know, but at least from our end and within federal highways, I mean, we're going to take it a step at a time, and then we'll let you know as much as possible, you know, when things come out. And that's where I want to come in here with this next topic here for the bridges. I'm going to talk a bit about the bridge formula program just a little bit, because the other two are still kind of in the oven. You know, those are kind of discretionary funds, and then the bridge-related provisions were just basically declarations like of changing names or terminology from structural deficient to poor condition, you know, the use of bike ped on bridges and things like that. So, but the bridge formula program, you know, it has quite a bit of differences going on here. And this is one of the notices that just came out to us, you know, to share with you guys and the state. So as you can see, I'm going for my notes because there's lots of stuff here. This notice came out in January 14th, and then, you know, Kentucky is going to be receiving $74.5 million, okay, for the fiscal year 2022. And then for off-system bridges, you know, Kentucky is also going to get $3.1 million. All right, that's a total of $87 million, you know, coming this year. And then the big thing that I see, which, you know, will help a lot of local entities, is the fact that this is, you know, this law allows for no match for, you know, locally owned agency for these bridges. All right, because that's a big difference than, you know, coughing up 20% or 10%, you know, to be able to trigger off a, you know, a federally funded project. So this is, I think this is huge. And I love it, because the thing about it is that it's always hard in the local agency. You guys know it more than I do, you know, to come up with that money to match, you know, to get the federal aid. So this is big. So that was one notice that came out. The other one that came out recently was the National Electric Vehicle Formula Program, and it's coming out of the climate and resilience, you know, portion of it. All the other parts of it we cannot discuss yet, because some of it is not even ready, right? I mean, you know, those guidance. So the guidance that did come out here was, gosh, what date was that? I think it was about two weeks ago. And Nora is actually going to be our point of contact for this program. So, you know, she will be able to share the information with you guys, you know, and she'll be working with the state as well. And here, this is something a little different, because they got both formula and discretionary, but we're talking here right now of the formula, which was $1 billion a year. And from that formula, Kentucky is going to be receiving $10.3 million. Okay, so that's just basically, yeah, here the guidance came out in February 10th. So that's like hot off the presses, basically. So I know I'm kind of flying through this, but these are the web pages. So this presentation, if you've seen it before, it's like 75 pages of PowerPoint. So I just took the excerpts of the things that we are right now actually, going through and working with. But there's a whole lot more to that, and so that's the first website. And then the second website is the one that I was talking with you guys about, as far as the expertise directory of what our in-house office looks like. And that's all I have. So, we have some time for some questions, if you would like.
Anybody have any questions in the room or on Zoom here?
The money, Janet, you're in the infancy stage of this, but there's funds that the governor will distribute him personally, and then there'll be money that will come through the ad district?
No.
No, it's all direct?
No, the federal program is a reimbursement program. So what happens is that, normally you would, once you have this money that is, apportioned to you, they would basically, the state would use it, and the same thing that you guys do, you obligate it to projects, right? But you have to have it authorized. But from that, the state would pay that first, and then we would reimburse that money back.
No, I don't
Is that the
disagree, no.
Okay.
The money's coming, the money's there.
Yes.
Who gets to decide what projects it's worked on, through the ad districts or through the governor's office?
Well, I believe it's the state. It's going through a process
Process will help prioritize.
with the state, KYTC.
It'll be through the state.
So Mayor, there'll also be we're assuming there'll be an influx of the traditional funds that come to KIP to those programs that Nick had on the screen. So those programs, they're gonna rise too. And so, there's multiple answers to your question in that regard.
That's what I thought. Some of it will go to the state, the governor's office, and they will decide what bridges go statewide. And then some will come to the ad districts to be distributed programs.
To the MPOs.
MPOs.
To the MPOs, yeah. So, to certain MPOs, if I'm not mistaken, it's of a certain size.
There's dedicated funds.
Yeah, so the SLO program, I think we're at like 21 million now. We're thinking it's gonna be more like 25, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that was based on estimates that we received from NDOT about our portion over there, that it looked like we were about 15 more in each program. One question I had was about, I assume you can't answer it, but the carbon reduction program in the presentation, I know guidance hasn't come out yet, but in the larger presentation that's on the website, it mentioned that that's a program that would be sub-allocated or allocated to the MPOs. Is there any more information about that or not?
No, we can't, we don't, that's the thing, is that there's so much here. The first two things that came out of federal highway guidance was just the bridge formula, because it was fairly easy to get out there. And then now, the national electric vehicle infrastructure. So those were formula funds. Discretionary is going to be different. So when you see discretionary, that's going to be a while, because we've got to get that a mechanism to be able to advertise it, and then have it out for you guys to create your grant proposals, and then send it in, and then a selection process is made with that. So
what will the Kentucky division's role be in that selection process, or is that known at this time?
Not known yet. So it is very much, a big question mark, but I know there's lots of people up there in headquarters feverishly trying to get something out, because the pressure is on, People are thinking, we got money, but we can't spend it because we don't know how to spend it yet.
Right.
We've got to figure that out first, and then as we get it out, we're going to roll it out to you guys as quick as possible, so you don't miss the deadlines or anything, So that's what our role is going to be like.
So another thing I think was worth mentioning, the PL dollars, the planning dollars. Remember when Nick was speaking, we flexed some money over from our Indiana programs into our UPWP. Those dollars are also going to be going up too, so that'll give us a little bit more flexibility perhaps with MPO. Kentucky preliminarily, I think it's going up by like 12%. I think in Indiana, next year is going to be, I think, a little bit over 20% actually. So and then we'll see what we get from Federal Transit in the form of those 5303 funds you hear us talking about. Presumably they'd go up a little bit or a lot, or about a similar amount. We just don't know yet on our end.
You may not have the directive on the charging stations and everything yet. Are they gonna be able to be used on other property besides government owned?
I mean, right now, it's just on the, right now that we have is basically on the.
It'd be what?
Well, that's where they have the charging station.
But it can be on private property. See, like ARC money cannot be, I can't put ARC money on private property or any other government property.
We're on private property, but we're talking about, we're gonna do it on the interstate corridors first, and only the ones that are designated as off-road corridors. The state is actually gonna submit 2 applications.
Yeah, they have to have a plan.
The 6 rounds of off-road corridors. They're also gonna try and have, some of those also on the Parkway. They have to do the interstate.
But they'd be on government property, not on private, not in the gas station property.
Right, you can't compete with private. They can be. Yeah.
So they can go on private property. Yes.
That's far, I think, for an
Our funds can't.
Mm.
Our funds work
That's
opposite of
interesting.
what you're saying anyway.
Yeah.
We get the money and we get to spend it and then go.
We
Cares
can't
was not.
compete with private industry. If there's already one there, we can't then compete.
Not allowed to compete or?
A couple of questions about these programs. The bridge formula, is that, bridge replacement dollars that, or is any of that sub-allocated, or is that system bridges require a match, but those projects will still be selected through the process, or?
I think it's through the state. The state's gonna be in control of that. Now, I don't know all the details of it, as far as, their prioritization process or plan for it, but, the state will have control of that.
Electric vehicle piece. I know the governor had talked about 100. It might be a different program, it was through the bill, and then it was matching. I'm just wondering, is that a difference? Am I confused on what?
We're talking about the GEE fund, governor's, 3E program, and they've got money from both sides in settlement for filling that money, so that's where that money comes from.
That's a different pot of money, right?
And so this EV program, electric vehicles, is it more for?
Mentioned that you're all looking to do it on the highways more so than downtown. Project like that down the road or something like that.
Because we're looking for the infrastructure, the big picture of connecting cities to cities, as opposed to downtown areas. I mean, so that's why it's important to get that infrastructure there, so you don't run out of electric, after 200 miles, where are you gonna go, So I think that's the point for that priority.
And locally, they are pushing control districts. They're putting in second level stations. So they're doing public-private partnerships, so people have to be willing to sponsor those in their.
Saying second level is in higher
Yeah,
charge.
that's in the 3 different
They're not putting the third one in the second. So slow.
Now, the first and the second will be local.
Right.
Third one, the DC fast charging stations are what.
Which all of it is, okay. Now, the bridges project, my understanding, I may be wrong, that there's several bridges like in northern Kentucky and other parts of Kentucky are already destined for this funds. Do you know that?
The bridge formula funds, or, well, I think you're thinking of like the discretionary funds.
It could be.
Yeah, because I think, that is something that has to go out, and I know there's a lot of the hearsay that's gone out, but yeah, I think we're still waiting for that guidance on specifically, the major big projects that are going nationwide that are gonna have to compete.
Any consideration giving rising bridge funds? Bridges.
I think that's something that the state, can decide on for some of those fundings that they can use.
So you want to cut off connections with Louisville? Is that what you're saying? Now that we built the bridges, you want to cut them off? Now that everybody's moved over there, we don't have to let them come back.
It can be done, through in Kentucky, through the Bridge of Kentucky program that they have been doing, here in Jefferson County, there was a bridge that, wasn't needed, that was, some of those funds, but it was capped at whatever funds it would take to replace the bridge, couldn't spend more than that to remove the bridge.
This is what we have, is we put a bike pedestrian trail on our old railroad bed, but there's still a state qualifying bridge goes over the top of it. Get rid of the bridge, therefore getting it off of the inventory, therefore getting it out of the state's hands and having to clean it and take it to a large box culvert. State, however, is given a grant to the county to add emergency pull-off lanes to the bridge, but the road leading up to and going away from the bridge does not have emergency pull-off lanes.
Yeah.
We want to get rid of the bridge, go to a large box culvert, get it off the inventory, the state does never have to pay for it.
You would have to work locally with the district office at KYTC to work with that.
Think of the box culvert you have, but box culvert with multiple box culverts with more than 20 feet, and it would still be classified as a bridge.
Yeah, we can get it down to, no greater than 16 and still, that's what we need. Put on a curve.
Okay, now I'm gonna bring up a minute or two's worth here. I would like to say that in Oldham County, we have worked in the past with, David Whitworth and Michael Loisel from your office. They're good guys to work with, and.
They're still with us?
I know, well, I appreciate that. They were good to work with.
Well, thank you.
Hope that we can work with them again. I wanna throw out something here a little closer to where the rubber meets the road, and it's probably not, you're probably gonna tell me you don't handle this or can't do anything about it, but in Oldham County, we have 14 miles of I-71. I'm told the other night, on 71, I hit a piece of steel and I hit a flat tire. I had to pull off, in the evening, it was dark, wait for a tow truck. I was literally, pretty scared for my life because, within 15 feet of me, I've got, trucks flying by at 75 miles an hour and so forth. I'm told we have somewhere around 12,000 trucks a day move through Oldham County. I don't know if you can do this or if someone on this, Zoom meeting can think about this, but I'd sure love to see the speed limit in Oldham County reduced for these trucks. I hear from women and men too all the time that they're scared to death to go on I-71 because of the speed that, Ohio drivers and trucks are, going, and, I don't know, who can do something about this? Bring up, and where can we get this considered? Other places you go to, large metropolitan areas, they step down the speed, and when the traffic, I mean, I have thousands of people moving from Oldham County into Jefferson County every day to work, coming home. If there's one collision, it blows up our entire county. If, traffic backs up for miles, and, we just need to slow people down out there until we get our 6 lanes at least.
Well, I mean, for that question, your question is the same question my husband asked me for the road that's in front of my house. And I think most of that you have to work with the state, and then of course the state will ask us, at some point. So there's that request process that, it would probably stem from the state first. And then it would come to us, and then we would review it and then see what, the decision would be made.
It's a pretty scary proposition.
Right.
I've been in office for 12 years. When I came in, and it hasn't reduced much, but it has some, but we were having an accident almost every day.
Yeah.
And not either truck or 2 cars or, there's just too much speed out there.
Oh, I understand. I mean, when I came back from Hawaii, in American Samoa, 25 miles per hour is their speed limit.
Really?
So, when I'm in Hawaii, I think 55 or 60 was probably the highest speed limit on the interstate there. And so when I came back here, I was just like poking along 60 miles per hour, on the interstate, and people are like, so, yeah, I understand. It's a different way, but, I think that's where you would start.
KYTC initial issue.
Yeah.
The district office.
Yeah, in the district.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You do have quite a bit of variation in the traffic volumes, but AM, PM peaks are high. some places have variable speed limits, where certain times of day, certain traffic conditions, they lower the speed.
I want to ask Kentucky State Police to do, for an enforcement.
Well, right, I mean, in my district, Kentucky State Police only have 13 officers for 6 counties. I have put Oldham County Police out there, and we've gone out with 8 or 10 officers, and we've written tickets for 3 or 4 hours to try to get a bad reputation, if you will, and to try to do anything just to slow this down. I think when we get our 6 lanes, we're gonna be a lot better off, but we're still a number of years away from having that happen.
If you introduce a too low speed limit, then you'll
Cause crashes as well.
speed variability, and then you'll have crashes go up.
Right.
Judge, one thing to mention is the, Kytc's statewide Interstate and Parkway plan, I think that's the name, of it. That's underway, and I know some of like they call it like management operations, the traffic management, the variable speed limits, the higher technology, the more ITS, more Trimark, that sort of thing will be a big part of that, and looking at prioritizing segments across the state on all the interstates.
All I know is I was scared to death the other night when my car broke down.
Yeah, I can understand that, I mean.
Yeah, there you go. I see that newspaper headline, judge killed on the interstate, you know. I didn't want that, you know.
Yeah,
Judge,
that's
if
true.
you were reading that headline, you wouldn't be it.
Well, thank you very much. Bo Day said that when we met her, she said, "My name's Bo Day, don't worry too much about my last name." It's good to have a name that is a little unique, and because remember, we used to call Johnny Carson just Johnny, and Oprah is known as Oprah. Some people don't have to have a second name, you know.
Well, they always ask me, how do you spell that? It's like today with a B, so it's very simple, and, you know, I think I'm the only one here in Kentucky. So,
Probably so.
if you go to Western Kentucky or Eastern Kentucky and they said, do you know Bodie? They'll know me, so.
But thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing your staff.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Pleasure.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the performance management annual plan update, and that's Jeremy Shaw.
Also following with the unique spelling.
Jeremy, she's got the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here you go.
Jeremy Shaw, I'm going to give the performance management update for the federal highway safety performance measures, otherwise known as PM1. You'll, if you were part of the TTCC meeting a couple weeks ago, this presentation will look pretty familiar. I'll give an overview of the PMP update, and then we'll review the 2021 crash data, and some of those trends, and from those trends we'll look at safety baselines and targets. Have some question and answer sessions, and then actions requested from the TPC to approve the recommendation that was given from the TTCC. So this is our performance management plan. It was updated last year around August. The 3 p.m. Topics of this presentation will go over the first one, which is safety. The second one looks more at infrastructure, pavement and bridge. Third one looks at sort of congestion reduction. And we also have Kytc developed measures, which were discussed at the January committee meeting. Those look more at regionally significant measures. And then the last item there, the updates that Federal Highway will have in 2022, and then Kytc will follow up in 23 for the rest of those performance. Here's 2021 in review. We have, on the next slides, we'll look at these more closely. Regional comparisons, fatalities, serious injuries, and non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries.
So here's the Kytc comparisons broken down by year and the 5 safety measures that we're required to report, which are fatalities, the fatality rate, serious injury rate, and non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So if you recall from maybe last year's update on this, 2020 was an anomalous year, very high in fatalities and the serious injury rates spiked because of the low VMT. So this year, fatalities and non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries were down just slightly, and then serious injuries went up a little bit. Fatalities by county and year from 2018 through 2021. Again, the fatalities went down just slightly overall, and there they are by county. Some increased slightly. Serious injuries actually increased slightly, and then when we look at serious injury rate on some of the next slides, we'll bring in the VMT. Non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Jefferson County is still very high, which that can be attributed most likely to the urban environment, a lot more bike and ped crashes resulting in this. Move into targets and baselines. These are the trend lines based on the data that was collected. For the in yellow, that's the baseline, and the green is the target. These are based on the 5-year rolling averages, which for our target, we set that based on 4 years that are in the past and 1 year in the future. That's this year. And as last year, we assumed that for the target, we are holding 2022 numbers the same as 2021 to get these baseline, to get the target. So fatality rate, that brings in VMT, which is vehicle miles traveled. Over the 10 years, it's upward trending. Serious injuries, downward trending, but as we saw previously, that they are slightly up here, and serious injury rate. So because VMT being low for the past 2 years, 2020 was especially low. So we had to make some assumptions about how to calculate those numbers. Also for this year, we had to make assumptions. We looked at streetlight data, and based on what we were seeing from those numbers, we assumed that traffic would be back to about 95% of, say, pre-pandemic, so 2019. We won't actually get say, streetlight data or actual traffic data until closer to the summer. So we did make some assumptions for this. And non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries were upward trending. You'll notice that Indiana, at least, is moving down a little, still much higher than anyone would like. Here's the summary of the previous baselines and targets, and then you'll notice the 2 columns with actual data for fatalities and all the 5 performance measures there. In green is what we have for 2022 and what we're approval of for the 2016 through 2020 baselines and 2018 through 2022 targets. Have any questions or comments? Be happy to take them.
I just want to compliment the MPO on their report, their TPM report, because when I did the survey of all the different MPOs in Kentucky, their report, and then somebody at the headquarters, I'm using it as a good example.
Right.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any questions? All right, we just, we need one motion to approve the entire report and the new baseline.
Well, since we have,
All right.
we have the best reporting person telling us, we should say.
Right.
I'll second Bernie.
He's noted in our minutes for sure. All right, hearing no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, thank you. Item number, 10, Nick Vale, Transportation Improvement Program.
Yes, thank you. This is fairly quick, just bringing you guys the administrative modifications to the current 2020 to 2025 TIP. No action is requested. These are just for informational purposes only, because there are minor changes to the TIP. We are required to ask for approval. But almost all of these projects that are included in this admin mod are related to the cost increases you approved in Indiana and the new fiscal year 2022 projects, those 2 planning studies and 2 TARP projects that we're using MPO dedicated funds for. The only other project was Patty Lane, sidewalk improvements in J-Town. We're just flipping the funding source there to make sure it's transportation alternatives as it was originally awarded. So we're just cleaning that up. I can take any comments or questions on those projects listed in the packet.
Anyone?
Clarification.
Sure.
On the Riverside Drive one on the sheet here, I do. Page 3 of the actual document.
It is listed, so the kind of grayed out numbers there on the fiscal year 2023 construction phase down in the tip. Yeah.
I was looking up in the chart, my fault.
No worries, no worries. Any other questions or comments?
Maybe we're worth noting, that one's getting, that was the overmatch project, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's like I think a $4 or so million project, using the COVID stimulus funds, the CRISA funds, and then we had additional funds, so we just awarded, I think, $984,000 more, so reduced that local match considerably. Still overmatching, as Clarksville typically has to do. Anything else?
Thank you, Nick. I think that's it.
All right, thank you all.
Now, Elizabeth Fark with the amendment to the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan.
Thank
you. You had to wait quite a while.
I did, the most important for last, right? Very brief action item. As part of TARC's triennial review, we have been asked by FTA to include the list of Section 5310 projects in the actual coordinated plan. These projects have already been awarded. They are in our TIP. So there are no new funding awards. This is simply an amendment to the plan that I would ask for your all's approval of.
All right, is there a motion to approve the amendment? Second. Seconded, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye, or raise your hand if you're visible.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll have Andy is gonna have some other business.
Sure. I don't have as much as I did, well, maybe I do, but last month, you may remember, I basically did a full-on personnel report. We had a lot of things to announce. So this month, only good news. We have hired a new transportation planner. He will start on March 8th. He's coming to us from New Orleans with a wealth of transit experience, so we're excited to have him. Again, he should be here next month. His name's Alex. Alex will be here next month at next month's TPC. Immediately following this meeting, as most of you all know, is the KIPTA Board of Directors meeting. Jennifer Kirchner is on the Zoom call. She's from Kentuckians for Better Transportation, so she will be presenting at the KIPTA Board meeting here in just 15 minutes. So I encourage you, if you're interested, to stick around. Many of you all will be here anyways, but if you're interested, please stick around for that. And Jennifer, thank you for joining us for our meeting here this afternoon. Proud to announce that we've found a suitable spot and a suitable date, or a series of dates for the Indiana Mpo Conference. We're on the hook to host the Indiana Mpo Conference once every 10 or 12 years. Our last time we hosted it was back in 2010, and so we're due again. It's our turn this year. We're going to have our conference at 300 Spring, which is a meeting space or event space over in downtown Jeffersonville. Real nice space. Should be appropriate for the amount of people we expect. It's right at the foot of the Big Four Bridge over there, so it should be a real good spot for us with dining and hotels not too far. We'll probably have a series of tours, involving the Big Four Bridge, walking, biking type tours. So I encourage those that attended in the past to join us. That date, or those dates are going to be October 4th through October 6th. Also, I think it's worth pointing out once again, because it was made official through a letter to Chairman Vogel earlier this month, that is that the federal certification review has officially been scheduled. That is for June 22nd and 23rd here at Kytc. There will be a listening session in the week leading up to that. So our friends from Federal Highways and their other federal planning partners will be back in town, hopefully before then, but definitely those dates too, on June 22nd and 23rd. Last but not least, we've got on our website, I think it's worth talking about now and getting a good habit of talking about it in the future because of some of the discretionary programs that Baudet mentioned earlier. There's going to be more of them, not fewer of them. There's going to be a lot more of them than there ever has been. So on our website, we've had for a little while where we show some of the discretionary programs that exist now. Again, it's going to multiply in the future. Ones of note, the RAISE grants, those are out there. Deadlines for applying for the RAISE grants are mid-April, April 14th. And then there's another opportunity. I don't know if anybody on the line would be interested, but a ports grant. There's availability for some money for some ports activities, and that the deadline there is in mid-May. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Is there any other business to be discussed today here by any of the members?
I would just like to thank Andy for signing putting the CPM training to be.
Oh, you're welcome.
I guess so give you a little bit of thank you, the information.
You're very welcome. We're happy to help because, Jeremy's presentation was an example of what we're at least trying to make it really meaningful in in this region. It's tricky. We don't have the opportunity to be aspirational, in those goals, as you saw. So that's what some of the performance measures, the goals and objectives Elizabeth brought last month. Those are our aspirational ones, and then the safety ones. I think it's very informational, and I hope it's very educational for the committee to see those and to part in those and help us out on those. Thank you very much, Sean.
And again, thank you for being here. Enjoyed having you with us today. And if there is a motion to adjourn, please. So moved. All right. Second, all in favor, please say aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.